Hello, I'm David Tennant. That's my plimsolls walking into the TARDIS.
Hello, I'm Russell T Davies. I'm the writer of this episode of Doctor Who. Hooray!
I like this little sequence. It feels like kind of here we are and we're back.
Yeah.
Do you know what you're doing when you're pressing every different button? Have you
Of course
worked
I
that
do.
out? Do you really though?
Yeah. Sometimes, of course, you have to adapt it because certain directors insist that they're shooting some way or for the sake of the shot. But I've got some ideas.
Well, we have
and then
looked at-
sometimes I do something because it looks good. But
And there we are on our Cardiff double of Rose's estate. It's we can't always afford to go to London, so we have an estate up here that we film on.
between the Christmas invasion and now, they've moved the TARDIS.
Yes, indeed. Where have they
Many
been?
off-screen adventures.
Well, there could be. Who knows what's happened?
I think to be written
Although
about for years to come.
You do sense that this comes fairly directly. You do sense they haven't really.
I think it's a nice little sense that almost that he lived there for a bit. You
Yeah,
know, I like the
yeah.
Jackie and Mickey saying goodbye
Yeah.
and there's deliberately nothing Christmassy. Like he might, and he was still regenerating
it
and
could be
getting over it. I
March
think
by now, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
You never know. And I'm sure he saved the world. In
Yeah,
Cuba,
obviously.
and nipped off to France and
Of course
did
he
things
did.
and all
Yeah.
sorts of adventures. Hooray! Look at your name.
Hooray! Huge big letters.
It's very exciting when I saw that for the first time, I must say.
When we planned this title sequence, but it was Russell's idea. He said the names have got to be so big, and they seem like
Superman.
the biggest stars in the world, and people really will think they are, and they do.
What are you suggesting? You have to.
Fool!
Do
Make
you know
that
what?
up
As
in
I
some
was
way.
saying that, I thought David's going to pull me up about that. Here we are.
Meanwhile, in the Gower. This is by Rossili on the Gower, which is the Gower Peninsula next to Swansea.
The single windiest day that Great Britain has ever known.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you're so exposed up there as well, aren't
Yeah,
you? Just
yeah.
right out.
It is the
across
most
sea.
beautiful location in the world.
It is
but
stunning.
It was windy.
It's funny, and I almost think to get the beauty of that location, you sort of need like a 35mm camera. It's actually hard to get the size of it and the scale of it, especially when
Yeah.
you've got a great big science fiction city across
Yes,
the way.
it's the most beautiful place in Wales, I think.
I sat in the tone meeting for this going, I swear you'll have good weather. It's a microclimate.
Well, but to
It
be
is.
fair, we were supposed to go there
Yes.
much earlier in the summer than we did.
Yes.
And because this came at the end of our first recording block, which had the huge Christmas invasion at the start of
Yes,
it, and
which was
everything had
sunny.
kind of slightly domino affected in from there on in, and we were chasing our tail.
So what you're saying is it's Phil's fault, really.
It's
Well,
pretty much Phil's
that's
fault. It
good.
would
Well,
have
I'm
been
just going
brilliantly
to
sunny.
shrug my shoulders and say it's James Hawes, the director's fault.
Yeah, and he's not here to defend
And he's not
himself,
here
so
to
let's
defend
settle on that.
Hooray. He is, he's under my chair.
Hello, James.
He sits.
And we also had a terrible calamity this day.
Yes.
Something that I've never known happen in however many hours of television I produced. We lost about 5 shots because the camera didn't record them.
Lost a whole scene.
And we
Which
lost
is
the
why
whole
that
scene.
when we first come out of the TARDIS, it's played in a 2-shot because
Yeah.
we did have singles to
Various
cut in that
singles.
disappeared, didn't they?
Yes. But
Into
right
the
towards
ether.
the end, when we get to the end, there's a scene with Chip outside the TARDIS. And
Yeah.
It's very beautiful and lovely and is missed. We still all miss
Yeah.
it. But,
Yeah.
And although we can do pickups and we can film stuff, it's impossible to go to the Gower again. It was like, that's like half a day's
We
travel
couldn't
just to
fit it
get
in,
there.
Yeah.
And it was genuinely one of those camera fault things, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was
Camera was on, it was flashing to say it was recording, but it didn't record anything onto the tape.
That has happened to me on Bob and Rose, and we had to shoot the entire day again.
Oh, yeah.
Every shot
Terrifying.
recreated.
Ouch.
Oh, it's the
Now-
dullest thing in the world.
We did redo these special effects shots of the hospital, and there's another building. That building you can see behind is new, and the lifts going up and down, and the twinkly lights on it. Because originally, and we'd done it, we'd online it, we'd all locked off on it, and I think And I think, David, you saw the version, didn't you?
I did,
And you
I did.
said to me, it's just, I wish that hospital was better. And we'd all said it. And then
It's
right
making it my fault.
right at the last minute, we said, oh, come on, let's do those shots. Let's do some more work.
And
I'm
that's
glad
where
we did.
Phil Collinson's a marvellous producer. A lot of people would have said, tough, it's online,
Yeah,
it's done.
yeah.
And you didn't. You went back and you niggled.
Going the extra mile.
And we're now in the Millennium Centre
Yeah.
in Cardiff for what was a massive night. We had a lot to do in here. And in fact, there was a whole other sequence.
In this sequence,
this
this is
place.
where the Duke of Manhattan and Frau Clovis were supposed to
Of
arrive.
course it was,
They
yeah.
teleported in, and he was having
Of course.
not a heart attack, but a stone attack with his petrified aggression, and you saved his life
Yeah.
in 1 second flat.
Yeah.
and earned the enmity of the cat nurses immediately.
Sure.
Yes.
Because they were very put out.
Yes.
But by the
And I
time we came
missed
to
that.
film this, we knew we were up against it. So
Yeah.
it was that scene was a version of that scene was put into the ward scene later.
Yes.
As we will see.
Because we knew this was a very big... We went to shoot at night time, didn't you?
Yeah, we had to shoot when it was closed, and we had to do quite a lot of design work to it. So we had gone in there, I think, about 3 PM, and then we turned up to film about 6 o'clock at night, something like that, till 5 AM. It was a really big night for us. But great that they let us go there, because it's truly spectacular, I think, that foyer, and it really gives it a sense
Do you know, I
of
love
size.
this bit. I love this bit. It makes
This
me
was
laugh.
a laugh.
It makes me hoot.
Oh, the old ones are the best.
And there's something daft though about, and I'm going to sound pretentious now, but there is about getting them wet and getting you in a wind and powdered. It means you're really there. You know, you're really physically there in that world, in a big science fiction world. It just sort of
Right.
grounds you and says the Doctor and Rose really are there instead of swanning about like science fiction characters. That's my theory. Anyway, that is why I did it.
Very
That's like,
nice.
you need to. Plus, it's funny.
Really.
It was fun to do, actually. It really was.
I've seen the Doctor Who Confidential with you moaning.
I do not moan.
You
Do
don't
I?
know. It's like, the water's getting colder and colder and colder with every take.
Yeah. There was that because it was very warm the first time we did it. It was very comfortable.
And there is actually it's terrible. There's footage of you putting on a wet suit, which is terrible
Yeah,
to do. It's
that
like,
that isn't much fun.
This is the basement at Tredegar House.
Sean Gallagher as Chip.
Sean Gallagher's Chip there, yeah. And our big set build of the ward there.
beautiful.
Huge green screen at the end so that we could put the view in. There's Adja as
With
revealing herself to be a first cat nurse.
prosthetic cats, which are just stunning. I just
Yeah.
think they're the
Yeah.
most brilliant thing.
I mean, you could get completely close up to them. You could be inches away from them and they still look perfect.
Yeah.
And you can stroke their little furry faces.
Yeah.
Could you? Because I
Yeah.
never.
Yeah.
They had proper furry
Yeah.
faces.
I
I
think
used to love that, stroking the whiskers.
Yeah.
So it's something really relaxing about that
Yeah.
on an episode that was particularly stressful. You'd often find me
I
in
don't
a
know how
corner,
relaxing the girls inside the
in a
mask
corner.
found it, but
yeah,
as everyone
stroking
trooped
stroking
up
a
to
cat
it.
nun's face.
Yeah.
You can't say that on every job. Can
you can.
you? A marvellous Michael Fitzgerald there.
That
Lou
was
has-
a little bit of the scene that we lost from the
Yes.
from the foyer.
And that is Lucy Robinson with him as Frau Clovis, who I worked with many years ago on a soap opera called Revelations, where she was. Me and Phil were talking about this today.
Yes,
she was
we-
murdered by Judy Lowe as her mother-in-law, and it was camp over the top soap, and it was marvellous, absolutely. And she was brilliant in it. She was absolutely brilliant.
She's great in this, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah, she is.
Face of Boo.
Face of Bo.
We just passed Sarah, our runner, in the bed there.
Yes, we
She
did.
got hauled in to make up the numbers that day.
Yes, I think the
In the
lady didn't
ward.
turn in, did she? He was supposed
Really?
to be there.
Yeah.
And they had the old face of Bo dusted off, and
Yeah.
he's actually not the same face. It's a different mould. The same mould was used to create a new face, and this face has a few more animatronics in it, so his eyes move a bit
Which
more.
broke,
and,
of course.
and
one
they
day.
broke. Yes, I'm going to mention that, but they did.
Yeah.
And then the kind of mouth moves a little bit.
I
as
found
well.
out who broke it. I found out who broke the face of Bo.
Oh,
Who
there was a
did break the
person.
face of Bo.
Yeah.
Go on, are you allowed to say it?
It was Billy Piper's
On-
boyfriend.
Oh,
He came in.
What did he do?
He
Was
came in and they were
was he
running
kissing
about.
it?
They were running about, and he got on the levers and had to go, and it all broke. Sorry, Amadou, I've just shocked you.
Amadou, my goodness, me, I'm going to hunt you down tomorrow.
It's all right. He's family. It's allowed.
Yeah.
He was mortified.
Oh, I bet.
This is so. I think this is one of the finest bits of design work. I think this whole basement. It's
The
so
cellar's really
lovely.
perfect, isn't it? I mean, what's so good about it is the white walls,
Yeah.
because cellars always have black walls and a dark or
Yes.
red brick, and it's white plaster, and it just fits in with the hospital so well. It's
Yeah.
clever.
There's the way we want to make her in person
In
for the
the
first
person
time.
for the first time. We shot these sequences in a place called Bar Orient in Cardiff Bay, which is a lovely old dim sum bar, and Zoe was with us for one day, and we shot these sequences, and then the scene at the end that she's actually in when.
Which was about 6
to see
weeks
her.
before we filmed anything else in the episode, wasn't it?
It was because of her availability,
Yeah.
because she was about to go off and do an episode of Poirot. And so she only had this one day, and she was fantastic that she just whizzed up one morning and then did it and then went back down again. She was so pleased to be up here doing it. So excited. Bless her.
Where did you get the name Chip?
I don't know. I thought I needed a nice, funny little name. You know, they're always called Zogma and Fiddly Boo and things like that. And I thought he's just a little pet.
Yeah.
It's not his real name. She just calls him Chip. It's like her Chip.
Yeah.
I have no idea.
It's perfect. I just
It
wondered
is
if it was,
perfect.
you know,
No,
referred
it's
to anything more specific.
Sweet.
More
it
shots of Cassandra in this one scene, I think, than we had in the whole of episode 2 last year.
And
I
this-
love that about this scene, that she's in it so much.
Yes. And she is even more fully read. It's funny, I watched a clip of I saw bits of clips of episode 2 of last year's appearance of Cassandra, and she is much richer and more fully rendered.
You can really see the
This
blood
year.
pumping, can't you?
Yeah,
Through
there's
the
more
veins.
depth in her.
Wonderful.
Brilliant creation. I mean, that's the mill. That's the people at the mill. Just there's a whole team who worked on Cassandra, and it's one of the hardest things you can do to do a lip synced monster. It's like whenever a CGI monster comes along, you know, they'll say, "Oh, fine," and they'll challenge it, so long as it doesn't talk. 'Cause
Right,
That's the
right.
hardest thing of all. Is just getting, and all Cassandra is lip syncing. It's like she's just
Yeah.
a mouth. So it's feature film stuff. It's feature film standard, and they do it. They do it brilliantly.
Yeah, they do. She's brilliant.
And they give her character the way she rolls her eyes
Yeah.
and rolls her eyes.
They film her when she records the dialogue, don't they, for reference?
It's just a guide, yeah.
Yeah.
They don't actually map it
Yeah.
onto Zoe Wanamaker's face, but it's a nice acting idea. Oh, here we go. And part of this script is worth saying. Part of this script, the whole. I promised this to Billy last year because we'd done so much with Billy. She's always getting her heart broken, and her father was dying, and she was being left in the gullies of time and space and things like that. And as she's never done a comedy script with her, Doctor
Right.
often gets a lot of funny stuff to
Yeah.
do. And it's often the companion's role that they don't, that they suffer
Yeah.
and bleed and wonder what's going on. So I remember sort of saying to her, "Oh, I'm going to write one that's really funny for you," which is twice the work.
I'm sure.
In the end,
Yeah,
it's like
it is, though. It's
it terrified her
brilliant.
more than the emoting stuff.
It's
I
great.
love
She
this
rises to it.
performance.
She now,
Oh, she does it brilliantly.
as Cassandra, she has a Wonder Bra and a slightly different shade of lipstick.
Does she?
Yeah.
I never knew that.
Yeah.
Oh, isn't that clever?
Yeah.
Yeah. Slightly more vivid, isn't it?
That
Which is clever.
Well, I sort of noticed the
I
Wonder
think
Bra.
the Wonder Bra did linger a bit, though, after Cassandra leaves her, because she quite liked it. Fair enough.
I'm a chav. We showed this episode in Brighton the other week to international buyers. People from Japan were there, from Italy, America, all over the world. And that got a huge laugh. So chav must
I'm a
be a funny
chav.
word in Japan.
I know. You could feel the line coming up, and I thought, "Oh, this is going to die."
Yeah.
Yeah. Full of 60 people whose first language is not English. Huge laugh. Off they
Huge
went.
laugh.
Mind
Well,
you,
it was you and me.
Phil dropped his pants at the time, so that
Oh, brought the house down.
Pedants could also note here that the woman in the bed is now no longer Sarah, our blonde runner, and has changed into a brunette. But then maybe the patient changed while we
patient,
cut
that was
away.
part of her necrosis. I think,
That was
to
part of
have-
her. That was part of her illness.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Have we said that's Anna Hope? She's just
We should,
wonderful.
because she's great.
It's the most amazing voice.
I remember her audition. It was like, oh, how extraordinary. It's like,
She's got a real otherworldly quality, doesn't she? It's
Yes.
great. And it comes through all the fur. It's brilliant.
And it was a
And so-
very clever idea with those cats to keep the eyes.
I was just about to say the
Yeah.
same thing. Keep
Because
the actress's eyes.
You could have had, the old slit cat's eyes things. And
contact lenses. It gives them so much character, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It gives them each a different character.
it stops them being a monster, and
Yes.
it makes them people in a way.
Yeah.
Go, Billy, go.
Off she goes.
I love the way he jigs up and down with her.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
And he was very hard to cast, Chip, wasn't he? That was very, like, we went all around the houses, because on paper it was hard to sort of say what on earth is
Well,
Chip.
and Sean brought lots of ideas to it, didn't he? Like
Yes.
the little kind of wispy Irish accent was all
Yes.
his own idea,
That's
and the
fantastic.
slightly awkward physicality was all his own.
And it needed, because he
creation.
was written as Gollum, really. That's what she calls him, Gollum, at one point.
Yeah.
And I'd done a sort of creeping little, strange little thing, and it needed a little bit more than
Yeah.
that, actually, and that's where he's brilliant.
He gives that real sense of a creature that's been created in a laboratory, doesn't he? It's not quite
Yeah.
doesn't quite all join up somehow.
Half-Life,
It's
isn't
great.
He's so sweet.
Yeah, he's adorable. Look at him.
Look how he looks at her. He's so excited for her.
Yeah.
And he becomes her in the end.
Yeah.
That's dark.
That well, I said to you the other day, well, I don't know what you were on when you wrote that sequence. Becomes her and goes to visit her himself when he dies.
Oh, I remember phoning you up saying,
Goodness me.
I remember phoning you up, I was standing outside the flat actually, I phoned you up going, do you think we could actually get Zoe Wanamaker for a day?
Yes.
And it's like, because I think we made contact with her to say whether she'd like to do a voice.
Well,
but it was like,
we just, I think, not long done Oh, I met her for some reason anyway, for some sound. Maybe she did a bit of ADR or something. I can't remember.
Oh, right.
And so I just met her. So I remember being really scared and wondering, did she like the episode? Because I'd not spoken to her about it.
Yes.
The episode 2, I mean. And she absolutely loved it. And so I kind of knew she'd come up and do it again, actually. It was just fitting in,
If
'cause
not,
she's incredibly
her sister
busy.
Roseanne would have made a sudden appearance. No fear.
Poor old Michael. It was so hot. It was July, wasn't it, this, David? And he's got the most enormous prosthetic.
He had a
God.
coolant system inside the fat suit.
Did.
Because he had so much prosthetics on his face and huge padding on his body that there was a channel of cold water that travelled round his body
No.
Yes, there
throughout
was.
the day. Yeah, to stop
There
him
was
from
to
passing
try and
out.
keep him cool.
God, I just sit at home and miss all this.
Yeah, there he was,
Right.
poor man. Oh, he was hot.
It was the middle of summer.
I mean,
as well.
he's not a small lad, Michael himself, but
No, he's not.
by the time he had all that stuff on him, he was gargantuan.
And of course, it was. There's no point not saying it was terribly difficult to film this episode. I think it was probably the hardest episode we've ever made because of the number of prosthetics and the number of creatures and the makeup times it took, and just Michael there turning from stone, petrifold regression to normal. He would have to go off, and it took something like 3 hours to get that stuff on him and reapply his normal makeup. And
Again, this was
prosthetics
coming
back
at the
on.
end of a recording block, which had the Christmas special, which had
Yes.
its own difficulties and had overrun a bit.
Yes.
And then the school reunion, which we filmed second, had filled its time and gone over a bit. So by the time we got to film New Earth, we were chasing our tails before we started, really, weren't we? And then there were all these added.
And it is
difficulties.
ambitious because it's funny because it's the equivalent we did the End of the World last year, which was set in the future with a lot of creatures. But actually, if you look at the End of the World, it's basically set in 3 rooms.
Yes,
and then there's a lot of big fans, and there's an awful lot of CGI work. And it was very tough to shoot, but it was simpler. This is a hospital, and they move more, and there's a chase, and people are. There's just more interaction. It's more alive as a drama because we're sort of. Just as we discover what we can shoot, we then go a bit further just to make it hard work. So,
And I mean, each of these cat faces took an hour and a half to put on, didn't they, or more? Even.
More, no, I think they were about 2.5, 3 hours to apply.
then you get the patients. It's like, God,
and then
And
the
the patients,
patients. So all the extras had to be the same. And in fact, that scene we just saw with them going to look at the patient in the pod, that was built at the side of our studio. Not the big set that we went to in the paper mill, because that fell off that day, the main day. So we had to remount that scene.
It's funny watching this back because there's a lot of that in this because of we were of all the various difficulties we were facing. There was a lot of going back and picking up snatched shots here and there, and watching it now. Because you've been involved in it, it's sometimes you're aware of the patchwork of it, but I don't think if you didn't live through it, you would notice.
It doesn't show when it's sitting at home at all. It's the shots are months apart, aren't they?
Yeah.
Some of them are literally. Some of them are 2 months apart.
Yeah.
Literally in scenes. I mean, there's a big sequence at the end that we'll talk about, I guess.
That's
when
me
we
kissing
get
Billy
there.
Piper.
Hooray!
Yeah.
Completely unscripted. They just
I know.
improvised
Just did
this.
it.
She just couldn't help herself.
I love your look here. It's just wonderful. Terribly funny.
Because it's funny talking about it. So when you look at this episode, because we were still creating a new Doctor here. In fact, we're so far into it now that we forget.
It's true.
As we speak, we're filming the last episodes, and so there was a lot of me sitting. There was a lot of. I like the fact that he's a doctor in this episode. He goes to a hospital and he is a doctor.
Yeah.
That was part of the point of it. But again, and you forget to, especially to a young audience, you are still a brand new Doctor. And it's touching all the bases sort of stuff. There's a case and there's a lot of action. There's comedy for you as well. You get possessed by Cassandra, and then there's fury. I especially love that scene you do with Novice Haim, where you get furious.
The moral indignation and all that.
Yeah, but again, it's like, I mean, I think almost every episode you tend to get a very full range of the Doctor because he does go through the come up, but it's especially important here. And I always like making him an action hero because I don't think in the old days you couldn't be. It's like all you could do was run between 3 sets, so we actually can make him more of an action hero now. So he's not just all words, and that makes it all so much more harder to shoot. It's like you're not just talking and you're running up and down lift shafts and stuff like that and looking at things like this, and it's a nightmare.
This was all created in it.
Yeah, that was also
a computer,
but
obviously.
this-
Because that all we had was the row
middle
of
tier.
one, didn't we?
Yeah, we did. And where they came down the stairs then, and all of this sequence is filmed in the paper mill, which was where we went to back in episode 1. It's where the nesting consciousness lived under the London Eye. It's the same location,
I think it
different
shows.
parts of it.
Makes me shivers. As you come down the stairs, just
It
that shot
does,
as you come down the stairs, I go,
doesn't it?
ouch. That's slightly the same location.
This bit really bothered me. I remember I talked to you about it. I remember having a long discussion with James Hawes, the director, as well. That the fact that I open it, we see this person in despair, and I say, I'm sorry, and I close it again. It bothered me at the time. I watch it now and think, no, that makes absolute perfect sense.
No, and because you have to see... It's hard because you have to see the next patient to realise that they're all the same. That could be one person with that disease.
Yeah.
It's the scale of it.
In context, it doesn't bother me. I remember, but at the time, it really
You were young
concerned
then,
me.
David.
I was
You were
young.
young.
I imagine that they're in a life
Hopeful.
support system as well, and
Yeah.
you might think that.
This is
Yeah.
one
Right,
shot
you
that was
film.
picked up months later. This one.
Yes,
here.
it is.
Is it?
You can see my hair is a little bit shorter.
Yeah,
If you're really paying attention.
See, I've never noticed that.
Nah.
It's that funny.
they're great, those shots.
Beautiful. Look at
Fantastic.
that.
Completely
Yeah.
CGI.
And just the camera move. They're such good directors at the mill. It
Yes,
gives that
they
so
are.
much movement. And I love you in the scene, David Tennant. I think you're I love you
Thank
in all
you.
your scenes.
Thanks.
I love this one, though. I think it's so... Because Novice Haim is so lovely at the same time.
Yeah.
And-
She's so genuine in what she's saying, isn't she?
I think it's important to find where the doctor's boundaries are, though, aren't they? And when somebody breaches them, he is absolutely unforgiving about that.
Yes, because they were getting on, weren't they, upstairs?
Yeah,
The Doctor
yeah.
and Novice Haim, they were friends. And you're just being upstaged by Billy Piper, frankly. I'm
I
saying
was
all
about to
this.
say,
Yeah.
look at Billy Piper at
Yeah.
your shoulder.
It's
there.
actually as an apology, David. Look at her. Look at
Mugging away.
Look at the great vamp. She's going, no, I'm being Zoe Wanamaker, honestly. Look at her. I've never actually done that before, stopped and watched her.
Look at those whiskers. The best whiskers.
Whisker alert. Do you
I
remember
remember
Neil?
Whisker Watch.
Whisker
You said,
Watch.
now, Phil, you've got to be on Whisker Watch.
They said as the mouse knows, I said, if one of those whiskers is bent, the whole thing is ruined. And Neil Gordon's like, Whisker Watch. We'll be on Whisker
Neil
Watch.
Gordon's team, though, are fastidious and
Yes,
brilliant.
they are.
everyone is a sort of talented.
I know, they must get so fed up of me
Artist,
pointing out the bleeding obvious. Like, oh, yes, of course. we know
It's
that.
it's just as well though when you're this busy and this pressurised. Sometimes things like that can get missed,
Yeah.
and they're brilliantly fastidious. They don't.
Bless them.
And those wimples were a nightmare.
They were a nightmare,
weren't
yeah.
they?
Yeah, I remember that.
They're utter nightmare.
But they work.
Oh, they're brilliant. The
Yeah.
costumes it has to be said, are just wonderful.
A lovely Louise. on
Yeah,
costumes.
Louise Page, our costume
The
designer.
marvellous Sheila on makeup as well.
And the best thing she did on this episode was, do you remember all there were about 6 other cat nurses in the background?
Oh, yes,
who
brilliant.
didn't have prosthetics because we only had prosthetics for our 3 leading actresses, and Louise had realised that actually the cat face would give a different shape underneath the veil. They're always veiled, those people, so we can't see. They're just Cardiff extras. And she bought cat masks for them, so plastic dead.
Cheap
plastic
Halloween.
Little Halloween cat masks, you're
underneath.
right.
And so when you see them floating past, you sometimes get a glimpse of a snout, or
Yeah.
it's brilliant. It works so well.
And
So
you would have
clever of
noticed
her.
a human face.
Oh, you completely
That's
would
the
have
clever
noticed.
thing.
It's very clever.
Very clever.
A little bit of effects work.
The
there.
plot's picking up now.
It is. It's kicking off.
It was
Here
funny,
comes
these
the music.
stories. You need 20 minutes to get everything in the right place, and then it's like battling tops. You pull the string and
Yeah.
everything
Here you
starts
go.
spinning. Off they go. She was strong, hauling you in there, tying you up into the tubes. And
Maybe she made Chip do that.
Yes,
Lumming
Chip
you
is
in.
lurking near.
Yeah, Chip's lurking. It's
Chip's
great filming
so
through
bad.
that. That was just sort of improvised on the day. I think somebody went, "Oh, we could shoot through these."
Oh,
Yeah,
yes.
you
Yeah,
could
it
see
was never the
through them.
intention, and suddenly we realised.
No,
that
you
it
just
made
could be
a more
talking to each
interesting
other.
shot. Yeah,
Like on the phone almost.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's great.
That's clever.
It's great green, that, isn't it? It's so vivid. I think it's lovely.
and sinister.
That should be showtime. Do you know, we cut one bit of dialogue and I so wish we hadn't cut it. And I don't know why we cut it, which is now she says to the nuns, my name is the Lady Cassandra, Delta 17. one of the nurse cat nuns, you'll see in a minute pressing a little Palm Pilot. She actually looks up the name Lady Cassandra Delta 17, and who is on record as having died 23 years ago. So therefore they can kill her. Because the cats have sworn not to harm human beings. And blah, blah. I've got when we went to the. Do you know, it's one of those situations when we went to the first edit and it had been cut, and I was sitting there thinking, "Oh, I wish they hadn't cut that," but I don't always say it out loud. Say everything out loud. I've never learned that motto.
Everything out loud.
Often, and possibly it's over slightly too long, but this episode isn't too long, is it?
No. We had that's the lady on the right. There's Donna Kroll, and we did have a prosthetic arm made with claws that popped out, and it was rubbish.
That's right.
So we had to ask the mill to do.
Have you got footage of the rubbish arm?
We've got footage of the rubbish arm somewhere. I don't even think I let them show it to you.
Was it not on the Russian?
It was appalling.
And some of these days, I mean, the teams of prosthetic artists we had in, because look at all these faces they had to do. I mean, each one of those took 90 minutes.
It is.
I think we had something like 10 prosthetic makeup artists on this show, and then also on some days we had another 4 people who augmented our regular 4 makeup artists. So I mean, it was enormous.
It was huge, yeah.
Because even like the people in the beds, the extras are red.
Every person, Russell. The cursing I did at you on this film in this episode. It was a.
We'll go back there next year. I fancy another trip to New York.
It was a nightmare.
We are. Absolutely. I
Quite
love it
right
there.
too.
It's some more cats in.
The flesh is free. I
You
directed
love
this
that
little
line.
bit.
Yes.
That tiny little bit. My directorial debut.
That's your favourite line, though, by the goddess Centauri.
is.
The flesh is free.
Yeah. All this is tricky to do. We had to, because obviously it has to be lined up.
Yeah.
The camera has to be locked off, so that means you can't film anything else with it.
Yes.
She has to go off for an hour and a half, have all her makeup reapplied, and come back and we have a special mix and overlay monitor then that means we can put her in virtually the same pose in the same place, and mix between the two then, so we see a diseased and not diseased.
It was done sort of especially for Julie there, because I remember last year after we filmed The Empty Child, which was brilliant, but like about 6 months after we filmed it, Julie sort of went, "Oh, do you realise The Empty Child never touched anyone? You know, we had an infectious disease being carried, and you never actually saw someone being touched and transformed," which, you know, it's easy with hindsight to realise 6 months later. Yeah. And so it was a chance to like go back, all right, then let's do someone touching. It's always a good, here we go, here's another one.
Oh, here we go.
Oh, bless.
Oh.
This was all pickups and shot later.
Yeah.
This was all shot later.
Yes.
In different elements of it, shot within months apart as well, wasn't it? The woman was on green screen, and then the husband was in a different place, and
it was balmy. What's very hard here, and like we were talking to Phil about this afternoon, it's like this whole episode is based on going up and down. They go all the way to the top, then they go all the way to the bottom, then they go all the way to the top, and then he goes all the way down the lift shaft to the bottom again. And that's a really hard thing to... Telly does left to right very easily. All telly's like left to right, in and outdoors, cars, left to right, everything. And up and down is a real cinematic thing. I think. I'm making this up, but I really do think this. It's like, and I think the more up and down we get in Doctor Who, the more exciting it gets, actually. Depth and height is more scary than just going right to left, being chased by a monster sort of stuff. So, but it's very hard to... I think this episode quite
up and down is scarier than left to right. That's an interesting theory. I'm rather reeling with that now.
Farce is left to right. Farce is left to right. Blah, 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 and comedies might be left to right, for all I know. I'm making this up as I go along, but I do think up and down is adventure. It gives you a chance. And television very rarely does up and down full stop, because it's harder to do. To look up, to look down, you need some sort of crane. It's more expensive. And this whole episode is built around going up and down, that we didn't quite master. I've got to be honest, we don't quite get the reverses of direction.
Yeah, I agree.
But it's funny because I was talking about this, because we're getting there now. It's like episode 6 of this year's forthcoming series the climax of that is a big up and down sequence. Episode 7 is a big up and down sequence. They're looking brilliant. It's like we've mastered it now. I think we know the right angles to do stuff at.
And the marvellous David Tennant.
I was trying to talk to cover this for you, David.
Yeah, thank you. I was brought up to see Stanley Baxter in pantomime at the Glasgow Kings.
I think you remind me of Snagglepuss. Do you remember that? Do you remember that? No, but it's the way you talk. It's Snagglepuss. You remember he was sort of like a slightly effete pink panther type.
You remind me of Zoe
cartoon
Wanamaker as Cassandra.
Thank you. That was the intention. Thank you, Russell.
I'm proper putting my foot in it.
Snagglepuss.
Snagglepuss is brilliantly funny.
You are, I know you're saying, I think you're marvellous doing that.
Yeah.
Absolutely brilliant. 2 hearts and all these body parts hardly used. That's
Fabulous. There's quite a lot of stuff that we didn't manage to
never
film
got to
around
do,
here.
yeah.
More scenes that we dropped that we didn't. There was quite a bit going on in the ward. They were. She tipped him out the bed and said, "Come on, lazy, help
There was a
us,"
whole.
and,
The greatest victims of the lost material in this are stuff that was never filmed. Are the Duke and Frank Clovis?
Yeah.
He was always bossing her about. When it comes to an emergency, she does him to.
It's true. They did suffer, but it was through no fault of their own. It was simply it was purely
brilliant.
time, wasn't it? Because they were so
brilliant.
good. Put them in New York next year.
Do you know? It's like
we shouldn't we?
I know and the lovely actors, and it felt like at one point every day we were phoning up, so saying, "Oh, we dropped that scene."
scene.
It was only
Well,
about,
that's because we did. I mean, we did.
It was only about
probably
4 scenes, but they came like in a row all the time, and it was like, oh, it was unfortunate.
This sequence was a bit put together. Those close-up shots on the hand were great. But it is great.
But when you say bit put together, it's been so brilliantly put together.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yes, it's been brilliantly put together. But what I mean is months apart. Some of those shots.
Because what it is, we'd realised we didn't have enough of her on the ladder or enough of the patients below, and so you'd have to go back and pick bits up.
Yeah. And the because we only had how long was the ladder? Would you say, David? About 15 foot, wasn't it? Not much at all.
Tops, very little. I mean, whenever there's 3 people on the ladder, it had to be shot in 2 separate elements and bunged together later.
Yeah.
You and Billy were nervous about the Cassandra stuff, weren't you? Like,
well, it's finding the tone of something like that. I think it's difficult. I mean, the tone of Doctor Who requires you serving it up in a way that you don't do in normal drama anyway. So that takes a leap of faith. And then to then do something which is potentially as broad as we're being asked to do here, you've got to match it. You've got to match the broadness of that idea with a broadness of performance. But you're always nervous of going over the top. You know, that's so it's just trying to find the point where it is entertaining and serves the story without toppling into something that's a bit naff.
And you have done. It's hard. It is a science fiction thing as well. With any futuristic one, we have a tone meeting and we sit there. And the constant tone of the futuristic ones is calm down, everyone. Don't add this. Don't add silly silver flanges, zippy uppy boiler suity things, or flashing lights on the wall for no reason. You know, that whole gag of science fiction. And it's like and then I'm the one sitting there saying calm down. Then I hand in a script where you become Cassandra and you all run up and down a lift shaft and escape from the cat.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? The more fantastical something is, the more real you have to play it.
Yes.
Yeah. And then when suddenly you're faced with something like that, you're thinking, well, this is glorious, and I'm desperate to kind of get my teeth into it and give it a go.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I don't want to lose that reality, and the whole story falls apart. You know?
Did you talk to Zoe Wanamaker about it? Did you say, hello, I'm going to be you?
Not really. I just kind of looked at her.
Watched her.
I watched her when she wasn't looking. But I think she was rather thrilled at the idea. I hope she's thrilled when she sees it.
Oh, she loved it.
This was the scene that would never die.
Yes.
That shot was done 6 months after that shot,
and
which was done 3 months after that shot. And shots of hands were all done all sorts of different
and
times.
there was the lovely bit where there was a constant running joke about the Duke of Manhattan's winch. He says it once at the most, he says winch me up. There was a whole detail, he'd always been winched forward and winched back down. And there was the most marvellous joke where Billy, possessed as Cassandra, went to the Duke of Manhattan's bedside and got offered a glass of champagne by the butler. And he says, do you want champagne? She goes, oh, moisturise me. And that was so nice, that moment. I really missed that.
Yeah.
Can I say, I love this sequence.
Yes, I do too.
I have replayed this sitting at home.
Too. I have so many times. I think it's probably one of the special effects sequences we've done that I was the most shocked. I'm not shocked by, but I just couldn't believe how much they transformed it.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes. I know, because we knew what it would look like, and we knew it would look like this, and yet it's just magic.
Perfect. Those shots are just perfect. I really believe they're at the top of the.
And it's you two, and it's you two enjoying it as well.
Look.
This is the music I want to write a song to one day. I'm Doctor Who.
It's brilliant.
I just love it. I think, and that's up and down. It's like there's no other way you could do that. Get that amount of
It's brilliant.
die-hard
So
sort of Star
exhilarating.
Wars physical thrill. You have to do that. You have to
Yeah.
slide down a lift shaft.
Yeah.
How marvellous. But now he's going to be a doctor. Hooray.
Yeah.
So there we are in our studio, and when you leap through the lift, we're back in the Millennium Centre again.
Yes.
I am like locations are us on these, aren't I? But
Originally, in the very first draft of the script, he came up with a cure for this, and the cure was to kill them all.
yes.
All the patients got killed.
That's a bit harsh.
It was a bit harsh. And then I read Stephen Moffat marvellously wrote an introduction in the Doctor Who script book, and he said, just as a joke, he sort of said, "Oh, I do like those Russell T Davies scripts. He invents interesting characters and then melts them." And I read that. I thought,
I'll show him.
do you know? No, actually, seriously, I thought, we've got a point, actually. I do love slaughtering them all at the end. And I went back and read this, and I thought, oh, that's horrible, actually. It was sort of nicely written, so you'd set them free, and it was their only form of release. And
Yeah.
Blah, 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 blah. You probably read it. I don't know if you read a draft.
I didn't read that. No.
Oh, and
Oh, they all died. Everyone died.
It was
My God,
grim.
it was bleak.
And then the face of Bo died.
yes.
And then Cassandra dies. It was like
Oh,
Peck and Pal.
right.
It suddenly turned into Peck and Pal in the last 5 minutes. That must have been a very bad move, basically.
I think you were.
I think I was actually.
You
I think
were
actually I
when
was
you
like,
were
with something.
Anger at the world.
No, and it's so not Doctor Who to be like that.
Yeah.
It's another
This
big...
is another bit where every single shot you cut to here is about 6 months apart, isn't it?
Yes.
Some...
Everyone's in different places.
Yeah.
Isn't it? Yes.
Well, because we shot into the lift. No, we shot going in and coming out of the lift at the Millennium Centre.
That's the last thing shot. The
That's the
woman.
very last thing.
That's-
Because you wanted that shot.
Well, it didn't work. It didn't because having done all these pickups and all these reshoots, we got to the very last edit, and I went, "Oh, it just doesn't work unless you see someone's face clearing.
Right.
You don't quite understand what's happening."
Right.
So Phil was very happy.
Very happy. Yeah. So when we see you looking into the lift, that was in our studio, and then these shots were back at the Millennium Centre again. So there's a slight necessity of separating it, but it was quite a big separation, wasn't it?
It's more than usual because it's always like
Yes.
that, but it is more than usual in this one.
On this episode.
And as a result, we get this lovely speech and lovely acting of Sir David Tennant, which is, and it's the Doctor.
Oh, it's the speech. It's
so
the speech.
the Doctor as well, though. It's like, hooray!
It's the speech and being covered in a bucket of water. That's what does it.
What time of night is it with you with that water?
This was the middle of the night. This
Yeah.
was
So
the,
it's
the
about
very
4
end of
o'clock
our
in the
night
morning.
in the Millennium Centre. We were chasing the
You
clock
left.
again.
You
weren't
left
we?
us, and we had we were multiplying our extras, so we were making 25 of them look like 125, and so we ran around with people. My God, it was absolutely terrifying. We ran around, dragging them upstairs, pushing them into places.
There's an interesting edit here in that the face of Bo used to speak to me telepathically there, and now we just have it that I just remember.
Oh, did he speak to you
Did he?
telepathically?
There was a groan or a moan or
Oh,
something. Or
That's
a...
probably when he was dying, and then I just said. Also, the really confusing thing is that was Ward 7. This is Ward 26. You've actually, but which no one gets on screen at all. Remember that we had really complicated reasons for having 2 different wards to shoot things in. That now, when you look at it, don't make any sense at all. There's just Ward 26. That was Ward 7. Why was that Ward 7? There was a really, really
I
good
can't
reason.
remember now.
No, it really made logistical sense because there's a slight design difference between them, and we wouldn't have certain actors on certain days. You could only do them on
Yeah,
Ward
it's
7.
true.
It was
I can't
maybe you couldn't
remember
get
now.
Frau Clovis and the Duke of Manhattan or something. Oh, whatever.
Well,
I can't remember.
it seems like a different place. We run off and come in somewhere else.
You suddenly put your jacket on, though, don't you? It's like you,
Well, I'm doing. I
had
did
to
it in
put the-
pieces.
We had to put that little shot in of
That's
Anna.
nice.
and that's the voice of Bo.
Yeah, it's played by an actor called Struan Roger, who I first worked with in when I was producing a series called Sea of Souls for BBC Scotland, and he played an abusive father of this girl who had been murdered, and he was a suspect.
He does a lot of voice stuff, doesn't he? He's one of the beautiful voices. I've done radio with him.
Yeah, it's very striking kind of voice.
Perfect for Bo, really.
Yeah, it's a wisdom and kind of something really nice in it.
Lovely chip.
The way he holds himself, the way he runs, it's great. It's all very.
It's clever.
He thought through every kind of element of it.
And the beautiful henna patterns the script said about which they are.
Yeah.
I'm a walking doodle, he says. But
Such a lovely design and colour.
and it's odd, it's so odd. It sort of doesn't quite make sense in a really alien culture way, and I think it's
I
lovely.
love it. I really like it.
Look, Rosie's back, hooray. Oh,
Oh, hello.
Hello.
Oh, there'll be people online getting off on that moment.
She's still got the wonder bra on.
Quite right, too. And Paul goes on, Zoe Wanamaker gets impersonated by everyone. It's like...
We all loved it. We were all lapping it up.
I'll give her more money. And this is where now the missing scene that was filmed, there was a camera fault, a genuine camera fault, as happens sometimes, is it's just a bridge between this scene and the next one where they took the Doctor and Rose took Chip back outside to look at the city, and it's evening and the sun is setting over the city, and it would have been beautiful. And it's just sad. He's dying, and they ask about the future of the human race because the Doctor says after this Earth there'll be another one, and then another one, and it's just telling, because it's not Chip, it's Cassandra, that the human race will never die. And there's a very nice bit about, does Rose say to you, where does it end? Where does the human race end up in the end? And you say, I don't know.
It goes
I don't
on.
want
There's
to
another
know.
one after this, and
I think we have got it recorded from the monitor on tape, so but it's unusable. But I think it would be so interesting on the DVD to bolt that together as a missing scene.
I asked Gillian as well because it was confidential recording that day. So
we
that
must
might
do
be.
it. There's we've got it on the monitor tapes.
And then at the end of that, the Doctor said, he referred back to No Second Chances. He said something like, I know I said no second chances, but there was one more thing I can do for you.
Yeah.
And you mix to this scene.
Yeah.
Because then Cassandra's earned it a little bit more than she has at the moment. She has at the moment. It's
so
what I only noticed recently, I hadn't noticed it any time I'd read the script or worked on the script. I think it was the second time I watched this through. When he says you're beautiful, and earlier she says that was the last time
so in a
anyone
way,
told me I was
she
beautiful.
creates herself.
She creates her own myth.
Because I do think also that she's surrounded by beautiful people here. Oh, I love this. She's surrounded by beautiful people here. This man dies in front of her. No one helps her. And like from that moment on, she thinks, actually, you're all vile. Something happens, goes wrong here. They all run away, and she's left all alone with a dying thing. And I think and that's the last time she was told she was beautiful. I think she created herself, actually.
It's true. I think you'd really get a sense that everything changed.
It went wrong
night.
that night. And that's why she then models a clone of Chip on the man she saw that night all those years ago. She says that's my favourite pattern because that's the last person that told her she was and how beautifully do they both play it.
Yeah.
Look at her. I mean, just brilliant.
It's brilliant. And the most brilliant design thing here is that splodge of black on the floor that looks like Chip's cloak is huge, you know, like there's a black splodge, so it looks like the witch in the Wizard of Oz melting almost. That is so clever.
It's really beautiful.
Oh, we love our own work. I do love my own work. I'm sorry, it's marvellous. Hooray!
Quite right too.
It's brilliant.
And you're both sad.
This was my first day in that costume.
Was
Yeah,
it?
it was.
Oh, because you'd been in your gym jams.
Because we've been doing the Christmas episode, the gym jams. And
Of course.
And you give such a hard look here. I love that look. You're not like going, oh, isn't it sad?
No, well, because he's got a very complicated reaction to what he thinks about this.
Yes, it's not easy. She's still a killer. She killed all those people.
Absolutely.
Oh, and that missing scene, didn't it refer to Platform 1, didn't it? He said you still killed all those people.
Yeah.
Here and on Platform 1, that's all your fault.
Yeah.
And that was nice. That was the only proper mention of Platform 1 on it. It's like, oh, well. Next week, however...
Here's episode 2!
Hooray! Best
Queen
episode in the
Victoria.
world.
I always remember you saying to me, do you know what? I've decided what episode 2 is. It's Queen Victoria, a werewolf, and Kung Fu monks. I howled with laughter. I said, well, I'd watch that. And that's exactly what it was.
And then you devil, added the Kohinoor. That's what took me weeks. Was that giving it away?
Is that giving it away?
Well, you'll have to watch.
All right.
No, it's
not. It's a nice little teaser preview.
Little
Hooray! I
teaser
love
for
doing
the
that. Thank
I
you.
love
Yes.
Yes. Thank
Episode
you
1,
very
Series
much.
2, Doctor Who.
My goodness, and it did feel like we were never going to finish that episode.
Yeah.
We were filming it. It did.
Still added bits
James
now.
Hawes kept coming back. It was like, can you not leave?
Yes.
Away and do
He would
something about
appear
Lady
at the side of the
Chatterley, for
studio.
goodness
I mean,
sake.
we were filming block 3, and he was still appearing.
And you were
popping
directing
back.
bits of it. You were
Tiny little bits.
We all
back
directed
to
bits
do.
of that episode. We all had a go.
Tim was a first.
Tim the runner.
Oh, hooray. Thank you and goodbye.
Good night.
Good night.